Good morning. That's the wrong view. Hold on. Good morning. Welcome to the NOSRocker Morning Review, Sunday edition. Got on my Sunday best. I am NOSRocker. It is the morning. We're going to review, and we're going to do a little bit of an extra review because it's been a whole week. It's been a whole week and a lot of stuff has happened, so we're going to go over that real quickly. And then we're going to have a new little segment. So to start with, the rank, the ladder, it's about the same. We've stayed at platinum, almost at the exact same level for the whole week. But that's pretty cool. That's fine. We dropped way lower, actually, for a little while. Went from almost plat 2 down to like the middle of gold 3, and then way back up. And what happened there was I started to get pretty comfortable, started feeling I was doing pretty good, and then I started sort of freestyling a little bit. I thought, maybe I'll just try running some speedlings in. Maybe I'll start doing some aggressive stuff. But without a specific plan, which often seems to be a little bit of a bad idea. At least at my level, where the understanding of the game is certainly not what it could be. So I went on this big stretch of just trying to do what I thought was fun and just messing around, and I lost so many games. It was a terrible day. And then, that was Friday. I had half the day off on Friday, which was quite luxurious. So I played a bunch of games and lost a lot of MMR. So the next day, we did a weekend edition with Coach Browntown, where we looked at some of those games, one of those games, and we talked about what sort of decisions are being made by me and by newer players in general, sort of where the priorities tend to be and where they should be. So we watched through, and he sort of told me where he would make a different decision, where he would execute something differently, and a lot of good things came out of that. What I think it largely came down to was knowing when to switch from prioritizing the macro game and the economy into the army, and then in managing that army, because from the looks of it, I was a little bit late on applying pressure, which against this is a Protoss game. They did a Colossus, Immortal, Archon, Templar thing, which is the bane of my existence right now, absolutely. And I had a Hydra Lurker situation. So there was an issue with not attacking soon enough, and there was an issue with how fights were taken and where they were taken, and some hesitancy, like getting Lurkers set up in a good position, and then panicking and abandoning them. Although with storms, man, with those storms, that's a problem. They just throw so many storms, like and you worry. So you worry because you want to move the Lurkers because you don't want to be in the storms, but then the Lurkers can't do anything when they're not in the when they're being unburrowed. So I guess I don't know. It's tough. I guess actually, I hadn't thought of this before, but they must outrange the storms. And if they outrange the storms, then you just want to keep them there and take whatever damage you need to take while you kill all of the Templar. In any case, we went through, we learned a lot, and then I played a bunch more that day, yesterday, and we climbed all the way back up. I think it was something like, I played like 15 games and only lost 3 of them or something. And I attribute that to, A, getting back to the plan, sticking to something that I had experience with and sort of had a direction with, as opposed to just picking whatever I wanted to do. And being mindful of the army, treating the armies that I have with a little bit more respect, not just throwing them away to their death. In following the Bronze to GM vibe guide, it is basically just a move, which is good. I mean, you should be in a position to be able to do that. I feel, though, that I'm not really quite nailing everything in the opener as good. I'm not quite as quick. I'm not scouting as much. Like, I'm making a lot of other mistakes, so I guess I'm trying to look at thinking about the fights a little bit to maybe make up for some inefficiencies in the early game and lack of information. Obviously, still trying to fix all of those as well, but I am of the opinion that if I want to do this whole GM in a year thing, I do want to start dipping my toes into more advanced stuff, just to get a feel for it, so that when it comes time to do it, I'm not totally new. And so that I'm starting to get those habits developed. The game is getting more complicated as well. I'm definitely noticing this. It's getting kind of exponentially more complicated. And that also makes some basics suffer. And that's something that I noticed as well in the big losing streak, is I was starting to forget about like creep spread. I was starting to forget about injecting and saturating bases properly. So it's pretty important that even as it gets more complicated and you add in new things, you pull it back a little bit and remember to do the fundamentals. And other than that, I mean, that was about it. Just a bunch of games. Things going all right. I think I said last week that Plat 2 this week was doable. Maybe it would have been. I'm feeling pretty good about next week, though. Back to a little bit of study, watching Vibe. Should be good. Now, for these special Sunday edition, I thought I would talk a little bit about the experience of learning StarCraft and what can be learned from StarCraft. Because it's a complicated game, and I find that when someone really takes to something, you start to sort of see everything through the lens of this sort of activity. Like, how should I word this? You know, see, like, there used to be these like chain letter things that went around that were like, everything I learned about life I learned in kindergarten, right? Sort of extrapolating this whole like hippie everything is everything deal. And I think for StarCraft, there's a lot of good lessons that can be applied to life, and a lot of life lessons can be applied to StarCraft. I don't want this to get too preachy, but that's why we do it on Sunday morning. So this new little program is going to be called Sunday School. For today's Sunday School, we are going to talk about, going back to the hesitancy thing, a little something I wrote down. I'll show you what I wrote here. I wrote down on this piece of paper. It's a lot of stuff. Let me see if I can see this. Action greater than perfection. This is, in my opinion, sorry, I need to move some stuff. A very important lesson. There can often be sort of this desire to really make sure that everything is right before you go and do something, you know? You have a plan, sure, and you want to execute that plan, but then you think like, oh, it's not quite the moment. And the plan, a part of the plan is that the plan gets executed, you know? You can't just bail on it, fundamentally bail on the whole idea because you're waiting for that last little touch. Or alternatively, you might try to like modify it a little bit and start thinking like, okay, well, in this situation, maybe I should change things. And it's sort of, it's hesitancy, and it's actually kind of happening to me right now. I'm thinking like, how do I want to word this? But if you thought about something and you've planned it, then what are the odds that you are really going to come up with a better idea in this specific moment? You know, you thought about this for maybe hours, minutes, days, and now you're thinking, oh, we gotta change. No, you gotta stick with the plan. Of course, nothing is guaranteed, and it might not work, but if you go through with your plan and it fails, then you learned a lesson, and you learned a specific lesson. If you start modifying it constantly, then what are you learning? You're learning that you didn't do the plan, and then that did work or didn't work. So why is it so hard to stick to a plan? Why is it hard to just nail the thing? I think there's a few things. Underestimate the value of the plan. You might think that, oh, the plan is just sort of like a guideline, and like maybe it is, but like just stick to that guideline, you know? You might not trust yourself and think, oh, the plan that I made is probably not right. But again, this sort of goes back to like, why do you think it's better now, right? Why do you think it's better to suddenly change it? Or there can be the fear of failure, obviously a huge one. You're just like, okay, it's not quite right. But failing is a very important part. In fact, if you just do the plan and fail repeatedly, the plan is going to get solid because you're going to learn valuable lessons. But if you keep on trying to change it and just think like, oh, if I just go right now and just fix this little bit, it'll work now, and I won't lose this game. And like, sure, you might win that moment, but you're not expanding on the whole idea. Or you simply forgetting, panicking, etc. You know. So I think that in StarCraft and in life, it's important that you come at it with an idea, a specific sort of goal in mind, and you stick with that, and you accept the consequences, so that the you that is going through time, deciding before, reviewing after, that's the person who is running everything, and not the guy who is sitting there in this moment looking at the big scary opportunity or the zerglings or the cannons and thinking, oh shit, I gotta do something completely different. Because that guy, he comes and goes. But the big planning man, that's the one you want to listen to. Does that make sense? I think it might. This is a tough lesson, you know? It's a tough lesson for everybody. But make a plan. Stick to the plan. And execute the plan. Don't nail perfection. Just do the best that you can do. It'll be good. And that will be Sunday School for today. Thanks very much for coming in to see the show. It's been a good week. It's pretty cool to have stuck with this for a week. We've had some good successes. We've learned a lot about this game of StarCraft. Learned a little bit about making streams, talking to people, and I'm excited to keep going with it. So with that, I will bid you adieu. Thank you very much for coming, and have a wonderful Sunday. Peace.